Caballero chords and arpeggios. In order to do this page, you will need to review certain chords. We just go over them. So first of all, you need to understand what the chords are. So usually we are, at this point, we're just talking about the chords in the root position. So whatever your bottom note is, the lowest note, that gives you the name of the chord. And if you just use fingers 5, 3, 1 for the left hand, okay, so you will just easily, you will be able to build any chords here. Okay, so again, if your bottom note is C, we call it a C chord. If the bottom note is D and you use the same 3 fingers, that would be D chord, E chord, F, G, A, B, and then we'll come back to the C again, right? An octave higher. Now, if you need to build a certain quality of the chord, for example, there are 2 major differences between chords so far we're studying. It's a major, and then we have a minor. Okay, so you can practice building it. So let's say on D chord, this is a minor, D minor, that's a D major, E minor, E major. So how do I do that? I'm just moving my middle note higher for major and lower for minor. This is F major, this is F minor, G major, G minor, A minor, A major. So you just need to remember to play sharp sometimes for the A major, for the D major, for E major. Okay, now we haven't studied the B chord because it's a little bit different situation here. In order to make it a major, you would need to use 2 black keys, but we'll study it a little bit later, so you don't need to know it yet, but at some point we will. Okay, so this is how you play them. On this page, you'll need to recognize them. You have to read them. You have to figure out the names of the chords. So let's review them using a whiteboard. So here we will start with the very first one, the C major chord. So let's just start with making the grand staff. We'll mark treble clef for the right hand, bass clef. So you need to recognize them in both clefs, right? So let's just start with the first one. The first one is a C chord, right? C chord. You can see that in this on this page, you'll need to do the broken version, right? You remember what a broken version is? Like, it's when you have 1 note at a time. You don't play 3 notes together. You will have some of this blocking is going on right here, like 1 note and then 2 notes together. But most of them you'll see it will be in arpeggio style. Okay, so let's just do it here in arpeggio style. Okay, so I'm going to use maybe quarter notes. Okay, so we'll have C, E, G. Okay, so that's a C chord. The bass clef, it can look like that. C, longer, E, G. So you can probably, you could kind of using a higher version for the bass clef. You could, maybe C would be here, E would be here, and G would be here, but I don't think you need to know that note for this page, but that's a possibility. Notes can look like that. So also for the treble clef, your C notes can look here, right? So you can use an upper octave for that. It's the same notes, C, E, G, just in different positions, different octaves. I guess in the bass clef, if you remember the bass C, C could be here, right? Let me erase this one. C, E, G. So this is the same chord written in different places, right? Because piano is a long keyboard, right? and so you can play these notes in different places. So this is the same C, E, G chord, right? So you just need to recognize these notes. Kind of looks complicated. All right, let's go on. So what would be for the D chord? D chord will be here and this. So in order to make it a major D major, you would need to use an F sharp here, right? If you need D minor, you would just keep it as a natural, okay? So that would be the D chord. Let's do the bass clef, D, F, A. And again, you can do it in different octaves. I don't know if we need to go ahead and write all of them like we did for the C major. It does look complicated, right? You just need to make sure you find that note. Let's say D here would be here, right? So it would be D, F, and then A would be here, okay? For the treble clef also it could be here, D, F, A. And again, if you need a sharp for the major, you would need to put a sharp in here. So that's the D chord. Okay, E chord, E. Again, if you need a major E chord, you would need to use a G sharp, okay? If you need a minor, then you just don't use a sharp. The treble clef here, the bass clef here. So E, G sharp, B again. If you need a major chord, you would need to put a sharp, okay? In the lower octave, it will look something like that. Okay, and then for the higher position here, you also can use higher notes here. So all these notes you need to know by now. All these positions. Again, it's the same three notes. So this is E, G, B, and a sharp. Sharp if you want to use a major. So can go like that. So if you want to use a sharp, it will be a major, right? A major. Okay, the next one is F, F, A, C. That's in the F chord. Okay, so in the bass clef, it will be like that. F, A, C. And again, if you want to use a lower octave, you need to know these notes. Okay. Because here you can squeeze in higher position here as well. We did study the C just recently. So that could be these notes. So these notes belong to the F chord. All right. And then you just keep going. So what would be the G chord? The G chord would be starting with a G, B, D. That's a G chord, right? The A would be A, C, E. Again, if you need an A sharp, A major, you would need to put a C sharp. Right? B, we will just leave it for now. Okay? So again, you can just go over your notes. It does get a little bit kind of looking complicated. So let's get back to our page here. Let's just do a little bit. I mean, copy it for myself so I can write here. Okay. So let's just, well, the first one is done for us. So you can see the bottom note is G. So, and then you have G, B, D. That gives us G major chord. And then you write out the letter names, the note names, should I say. So G, B, D. Let's do this one. So what's the bottom note here? That's our D note. We can actually start with this one. D, okay. Then we have F. Then we have A. And that's how you, if you just think about these three notes, you can see that that's your D chord, D. And this is actually D minor, because there's no F sharp. If you put a sharp, we would have had a sharp here, that would be D major, okay? So let's do the next one. So the next one is, that's a C. Then we have two notes together, so you have E flat, and then we have a G note here, G. So C, E flat, G, if you play it, you can see it sounds pretty sad, pretty dark. So that must be C, and because it's so sad, it will be minor, okay? Okay, so which one should we do next one? Let's try maybe this one. How about that? So what's the name of this note? It's an E note. Then we have a G sharp. Then we have a B. And these notes are the same, right? You can see E, G sharp, B, E, G sharp, B, E. So it's the same three notes, E, G sharp, B. And if you play it, then your right hand goes here. So you can hear it sounds major. So it must be E major, E major. Okay, and then you'll need to play them. So if you play them, let's start with the very first one, with the G major, the one that the example we have. So you start with the G. Okay, so that's how you practice these cross hands arpeggios. Okay, well, happy practicing.